Good morning everyone. This is Shailaja Reddy, Assistant Professor of English. Today we are going to deal with reading skills. In that reading you are going to learn about skimming, scanning, intensive and extensive reading, which is from your third unit. So before going into skimming, scanning, intensive and extensive, let me give you a brief description about reading, which I have already explained you when I was dealing with first unit. So why do you read? In our daily life, we read many things like signboards, billboards, railway timetables, newspapers, magazines, textbooks, storybooks, articles, advertisements, presentation slides, emails, letters, etc. etc. So there is a lot of information around us, and reading is an important method of processing the information and using it for our purposes. There is no doubt that reading is an important skill for success in academics and at the workplace, and for survival in this modern world also. Okay, so let us go into this skimming scanning. As we have observed earlier, reading is an important and if you have good reading skills, you can achieve success. So these are different types of reading skills which you have to know. So let us go into depth of this topics. What are these topics about? So first one is skimming. What is skimming? Skimming is the process of reading only the main idea within the passage to get overall impression of the content or the paragraph. So let me explain what is this skimming is. So skimming is something where you skim the text to get an main idea about the passage. You generally skim when you have lots of material to read and very less time. So let me give you an example which is related to you people. So imagine that you have your exam tomorrow. Suddenly today evening you realized that you have to study for your exam and you have to clear your subject. So what is the thing you will do? You will skim. In what way? So as I told you, you have exam tomorrow and you have to read all the 5 units of your lessons. So you don't have so much of time. So here you skim the lessons and you will get the main idea of the passages or of the text. So because you have very less time, you can't read line by line and word by word. So you read the text to get a main idea of the text. That means overall gist of the text. So you skim generally you skim it's like you read 3 to 4 times more faster than your normal reading when you skim. As I told you, you have very it's like lots of material to read. So that's the reason you skim. So skimming is the process of reading to get a main idea of the passage. Okay. The second one is scanning. In scanning, you read to find the answers and ignore the unrelated information. So scanning is something where you try to find out the answers which you need, not the whole content. Okay. So let me give you an example. What is the general meaning of scanning? It's like the terminology. Let me use the terminology of medical terminology. It's like what is scanning means. Why do a person has to get a scan? For example, if you have a problem, abdomen problem, you will only scan that area, not the whole body scan. So that means you are trying to find out what exactly problem is there in your abdomen. So you are trying to find out the problem in a certain area. So in the same thing in scanning, in your English scanning, the reading scanning is you will try to find out the answers which you need and you ignore the unrelated information. So let me give you an example for this one also. I think in your schooling and in your inter, you had this reading comprehension where a passage was given to you and you have to read that passage, and under that 5 or 6 questions were given to you. So by reading that passage, you have to write the answers. But what was the method you have followed or we have followed? It's like you only read the question first, and then you will try to identify the word from the question in the passage. So you will scan for the required information. You won't read the whole paragraph there, only you will scan for the specific answer. So that is scanning. Scanning is something where you try to find out the specific information which you need and you ignore the unrelated information. So this is scanning. The next one is intensive reading. Intensive reading, we read with specific aim and task, and it's a word to word reading. Also focuses on grammar and vocabulary. So intensive reading is something where you read in depth of the text. And you will try to identify each word, and even you will try to find out the meaning for the words. And intensive reading also focuses on grammar and vocabulary. So intensive reading is nothing but reading and understanding the in-depth of the text. Okay, this is about intensive reading. And the last one of your reading is extensive reading. So extensive reading, we read it for joy and you will get overall idea about the topic. Fast and ignores the unknown words. So extensive reading is something where you read for joy and pleasure. The best example for your extensive reading is novels. So novels, when you read novels, you read for passing your time and for pleasure. People have a habit of reading novels. So you read for pleasure and joy and to get an overall idea about the topic. And sometimes you also ignore the unknown words from that novels. So here extensive reading is nothing but you will read externally of the, it's like you won't go in depth of the topic, but you will try to get an overall idea about the topic, where extensive reading is used for getting joy and pleasure. You read to get joy and pleasure, and generally you ignore the unknown words. And because why extensive reading, you won't focus on the words, because at the end of your semester or year, no one will ask you that what you have read in your what you have read in the novel, and you have to answer the questions for that one. So that's the reason extensive reading is something you just read and you forgot about the things, but you have a overall idea about the topic. So this is about this is today's topic, that is intensive, extensive, scanning and skimming. So scanning is something where you try to locate the specific information. Scanning is something where you read to locate the specific information and you ignore the unrelated information. Skimming is the process of reading to get a main idea about the passage, and you skim when you have lots of material and very less time. And intensive reading is something where you read in depth of the topic and you focus on word to word reading and also on grammar and vocabulary. And the last one is extensive reading. Extensive reading is something where you read for joy and pleasure and you often ignore the unknown words there. So this is about today's topic. Hope you have understood this one. Thank you.